Are you wasting money managing VMs? Do you have MSDN licenses, TFS servers, build servers, load testing servers, project management servers? If you answered yes and you aren't using Visual Studio Team services, then I can guarantee you're spending money that you don't have to, especially if you have MSDN licenses. After I show you what VSTS has to offer, you tell me if you're wasting money. Keep watching this video if you want to learn how much money am I wasting, what are my alternatives, and where can I learn a smarter approach. This is I Hate Managing VMs, Web Development with Visual Studio Team Services and Azure App Services. My name is Jeff Ammons and I'm Chief Instructor for Code Career Academy as well as a Microsoft MVP and Pluralsight author. I'll answer the last question first in case you don't have time to watch the whole video. Where can I learn a smarter approach? The best option I can offer is to attend my one-day hands-on workshop in Lawrenceville on Friday, July 22nd. If you register before July 14th, you can get a $100 early bird discount. Links are in the notes below, but you can sign up at atlanta-vsts-workshop-july.eventbrite.com. I do recommend you sign up early if you're interested because I can only take 15 people per day. The reason I limit it to 15 is because I want to make sure that I have plenty of time to work with each person as they go through my workbook and set up a complete environment. I'll start the day by walking you through exactly how to set everything up. After lunch, you'll use my workbook, which is full of screenshots and step-by-step directions. I'll also be giving a shortened 1-hour talk on this subject at the Gwinnett, Georgia Microsoft User Group meeting on Thursday, July 14th. In that talk, I'll be cramming as much of my workshop content into 1 hour as I possibly can. Obviously, I can't condense the whole day into 1 hour or conduct the hands-on workshop, but I'll plow through as much of it as I possibly can. You can sign up for that meeting at the link you see on the screen. It's also down in the notes below. Okay, now let's answer the questions: how much money am I wasting and what are my alternatives? We'll start by looking at what you need to run a professional web app these days. Obviously, you'll need web servers, most likely a load-balanced set of them. Next, you'll need a source control server, project management server, possibly a NuGet server, build server, release management server, load testing servers, and at least one database server. One very common setup you'll see in many .NET shops is a TFS server used for source control, build server, project management, and release management. Maybe also a NuGet server, some load testing servers, web servers, and database servers. We're going to ignore the database servers in this discussion because there are just way too many possible options here to adequately price things out. You may be using SQL, NoSQL, SQL Server, Oracle DB, MySQL, MongoDB, or one of the dozens of other databases. Prices of these things are just all over the place. I'll leave it to you to estimate this bit for yourself based on how your company works. Alright, so let's take a look at how this could be set up. We have one virtual machine for TFS and the NuGet servers, a set of them for load test servers, and another set for the web servers. Let's ballpark the costs here. We have a minimum of 3 VMs, but we'll say 3 to N VMs. We'll estimate how much they cost in a bit. We also have one license for TFS server and its maintenance, which we're going to estimate at $499 a year. Our developers will also need licenses or CALs, which we can get standalone for $499 each, or more commonly as part of an MSDN subscription. I'll put the renewal price for the professional edition here, which is about $799. If you buy MSDN licenses, you know that they go up from there. To manage these VMs, we'll need one or more admins. Let's figure out how many VMs we really need. That's 1 for the TFS server, and I'll say 3 for the load test servers. For the web servers, we'll have 1 each for dev, QA, and testing, plus 3 for our production instance. That gives us a total of 6. We'll add all these VMs up and see that we need 10. For the sake of argument, we'll estimate 7 developers and 1 admin. Let's get rid of the boxes now and move the text over so we have some more room. I'm going to pick an average monthly cost of $50 per VM. This could be a cloud-based VM or the amortized cost of physical hardware, but I think $50 is a fair average. For the admin, I'm going to guess what percentage of this person's time will be spent dealing with these VMs over the course of a year. This includes setting them up, applying patches, dealing with backups, etc. I'll guess that this is going to run about $3,000 a year. So how does this all add up? 10 VMs at $50 per month gives us $500 per month or $6,000 per year. The TFS server license just comes right across. TFS CALs would run us about $3,493, and MSDN licenses would run us about $5,593. Our $3,000 admin fee also just comes across. We'll assume we're going with the MSDN licenses instead of TFS CALs, so that all adds up to $15,092. I'm sure the first thing your boss is going to say is, "Hey, can you cut down those costs? It seems a little high to me. Surely we don't need all those servers. It's just one web app, for God's sake." So you scratch your head and think, what can I cut? Load test servers are the first to go. I mean, if we just get several people in the office to hit it at once, that's probably good enough, right? Next on the chopping block are the web server VMs. We'll most likely not get that much traffic. Most days will be pretty light. We really only get nailed just a couple times a month. If we get pushback, we may have to dump the TFS server. Maybe we'll just set up our own Git server or use GitHub, and you can do a whole lot of project management just with Excel and email, right? Build servers are nice, but if push comes to shove, we could just deploy straight from Visual Studio on a developer's desktop. What could possibly go wrong? We've given up a ton of capability here, so how much have we saved? To start, we're down to 3 virtual machines, so that brings us down to $1,800 a year there. We don't need the TFS server or CALs, but we do still need our MSDN licenses. Since the admin doesn't have as many VMs, I'll cut that down to about $1,000. That gives us a total of $8,393. Not bad. Okay, so our boss is as happy as he gets. "Well, that's not terrible, I guess. My nephew runs a website for about $5 a month, but whatever. He's satisfied and relatively happy until all of a sudden something goes wrong, and customers are calling in because the website is slow or they can't log in, or a bug that was supposed to be fixed is back. Now he's in your face going, "Why are our customers complaining about this? I thought you were a professional. How did you let this happen?" Take a deep breath. So what would be a smarter way for us to cut those costs down? We're still getting rid of TFS because we can use the online version, Visual Studio Team Services. Let Microsoft manage the Microsoft servers. Visual Studio Team Services, or VSTS, is going to give us our source control, hosted build servers, project management, release management, NuGet servers, and load testing all in a one-stop shop. Now, how's that going to save us costs? Well, for starters, we don't have to pay the TFS server license or have those VMs. We do still need the developer CALs, but they are still included in our MSDN subscriptions we're buying anyway. What's more, Microsoft will actually give us 5 free developers per project. That's huge for really small shops who might not have more than 5 developers. For them, they will likely be able to use the Community Edition of Visual Studio paired with VSTS for essentially zero cost. That's great, but how can we also save some money on our web servers? We'll use Azure App Services. App Services is a bundling of the older web apps with a few other offerings for one single price. We'll set up one instance of App Services to host 3 web apps, our Dev, QA, and Test apps. We'll have a second instance of App Services just for our production web app. We'll tell that one to dynamically scale up to as many as 3 instances as needed. Let's check the savings this way. We'll go from 10 virtual machines to 0 for an immediate savings. Now we can get rid of the $499 for the TFS server license as well as the CALs. I'll set the admin to 0. There will still be some work to do setting things up on Azure, but there will be very little ongoing maintenance required. Again, let Microsoft maintain the Microsoft servers. I'll delete everything we don't need just to clean this up. So what's the cost of Azure App Services? We'll go with 2 standard service plans. The first one will be an S1, which includes 1 CPU core, 1.75 gigs of RAM, and 50 gigs of storage for about $74 a month. The second one will be an S2 instance with 2 CPU cores, 3.5 gigs of RAM, and 50 gigs of storage for about $149 per month per instance. So if we were to say we wanted 3 full-time instances, we would pay $149 for each of them. Fortunately, we don't have to do that. We can instead have 1 instance live all the time, but tell it to auto-scale up to a maximum of 3 instances based on the CPU or memory load. We only pay for the instances while they are running. Since we only get hammered a couple times a month, we'll be running with just 1 instance most of the time. So let's put this up on our list here. We have 1 Azure App Services instance for $74 a month or $888 a year. For production, we'll estimate a base of $149 and additional scaled out minutes adding up to an extra $51 a month for a convenient total of $200. If we add those up, we get $8,881. Savings achieved. We've saved about $6,211 hypothetical dollars without losing any capabilities. In fact, in some areas, we actually may have more capabilities than we had before. We go back to our boss and he says, Well, I guess that's not too bad. I still think you should talk to my nephew sometime, but not bad, not bad. And with that, in the 1 hour talk or workshop, I'll move on to demoing how to set all of this up in VSTS and Azure. If you come to the workshop, you'll get a PDF of my workbook that walks you step by step through how to set everything up yourself. We'll set up a web app on Azure App Services, then set up source control in either Git or TFVC on VSTS. We'll create build scripts that use hosted VMs from a pool to download the latest copy of our source, build it, and deploy it to Azure. We'll set up release management to deploy to QA, test, and production with required sign-offs. I'll also show you how to set all of this up for continuous integration and deployment so that whenever you check something into the master branch, it will trigger the build and deployment to the dev instance. I'll also show you how to create deployment slots in Azure so that you can deploy to a staging slot, test it, then flip it to live status when you're happy with it. By the time we're done, you'll be able to go back to your company and significantly cut costs without cutting capabilities. That about wraps it up for this video. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe to our channel. If you want to receive updates on talks, workshops, and classes I'm teaching, be sure to sign up for our mailing list at codecareeracademy.com. Just scroll down to the bottom of the homepage or contact page and put in your name and email address. Sign up for my workshop in Lawrenceville at atlanta-vsts-workshop-july.eventbrite.com. This is Jeff Ammons of Code Career Academy, and I hope to see you at the GG Mug meeting on the 14th and at my workshop on the 22nd.